On this episode of EcoSense for Living, Pulitzer Prize winner E.O. Wilson shares his insights on habitat destruction and hope for the future. Later, at Biscayne Bay National Park, we find out what veterans, scuba divers, and shipwrecks have in common. Biologist E.O. Wilson's latest book, Half Earth, is about extreme measures we may have to take to help save the planet. How did you come up with the concept of Half Earth?
It occurred to me that we needed a giant step, something that, if achieved, would essentially halt or slow drastically the extinction rate. And what could that be? Well, why do birds and salamanders and butterflies, certain ones, go extinct? And the answer is contained in the word hippo. H is for habitat destruction. I is for the invasive species that come in and displace native species. The first P is for pollution. Second P is for overpopulation and just plain destructive human activity of people doing their thing. And O is over-harvesting, which we see happening with the elephants and the rhinos. Well, habitat destruction stands out as the leading cause of extinction. If you could solve that problem of reducing habitat all the time, then the other causes of extinction would diminish greatly. If the world put aside half of the oceans, the marine environment, and half of the land for the rest of life, why one species takes one half, the rest of the 10 billion species, shall we say, exaggerating it a little, takes the other half, we then would stabilize the living world at somewhere around 80 or 90% of the species. At first, that seems like an impossible goal for people to achieve, people of the world. But it's not. And as in my book, Half Earth, I point out, if you start piecing together areas that are still sparsely inhabited by people, and if you also simply declare those as refuges without removing people, or for that matter, abrogating property rights and the like, but at least take some measure or other of preventing conversion of the area to agriculture, the cutting over of the timber in the case of the forest, then we could achieve somewhere around 80 or 90% of the species saved in perpetuity.
So what would you say to people that were concerned about polar bears but not so much insects?
I want people to be concerned about all the world's biodiversity and all the biodiversities around them. Weeds are extremely interesting, species by species. They have a history. They have a biology. To be concerned about those that are in danger of extinction. Keep in mind that polar bears are one species out of not a great many of vertebrate species, including mammals, reptiles, birds, amphibians, fishes. There are only about 68,000 of those bigger creatures known. There are over 1 million species of insects alone known. Each one a world unto itself, each one an interesting object of study and observation. It may not be appealing, it may even be scary to some people, but awareness of them is what we should be giving to our children, not just to ourselves, but to our children especially, because it is there where a whole front of scientific exploration and technology is going to advance. More than 1/2 billion years of evolution that led to this immense variety of small creatures that surround us.
So everything is connected, from the polar bears down to the pollinators.
Oh, yes. if you pull one species out, if you extinguish one species, the effects are going to be unknown to the rest of the ecosystem, and they could be serious in the long term, and they even could be catastrophic.
For those people out there that you would like to convince that climate change is real, what would you say?
The people we have to convince are a dwindling minority of political and business leaders in this country. And to them, I would say, look, the civilization that you so enjoy and have so magnificently prospered in is based upon science and technology. Is it not reasonable that you would believe in the best of science and technology in this particular issue as well? I think we're going to be seeing a lot of converse. They will be convinced when people will start getting around in Miami in a gondola. Geologists have introduced the idea that we are now living in the Anthropocene. It's a new geological period which recognizes that the whole surface of the world has been changed by humans in one way or the other, the period of humans. And that has that's recognition of a very important event that is occurring, namely that the planet is becoming humanized. And part of that is the accelerating elimination of the natural fauna and flora, biodiversity. It's also noted by the many physical changes that are occurring in the quality of the water, the nature of the soil, and so on. And some have said, well, we shouldn't worry too much about that. If a lot of species become extinct, that's unfortunate. If much of the environment is altered, well, we can alter it in a way that just suits humans and not worry too much about the rest of life. We have our crop species. We have a few animals we love. It's just going to be the destiny of the world to be covered the rest of the way with humans. And that we will call the Anthropocene of the future. And there's another version of it. And it is that don't worry too much about the Anthropocene eliminating species of plants and animals. We'll find a way to clone them and bring them back later. This is called de-extinction. Now, both of those projections may sound absurd to you, and they are, absurdly so. These are ways of proceeding to destroy the rest of the planet in a way that even humans can't adapt to it. The only way that we're going to be able to live as human beings without turning into robots ourselves or drastically reducing our numbers and the like is by keeping the rest of life on the planet intact so that we share the planet with all the rest of the species that have taken 3.5 billion years to evolve to this state of equilibrium and sustainability. Just keep them, for heaven's sake, and let them occupy a large part of the earth with us. What I would like to propose myself, and I know this is shared by a number of others, professionals in conservation biology, that the national parks of the United States should be made centers of science, education, and scientific research. It could be done by creating centers within the park, no larger than visitor centers and residences now available without disturbing the integrity of the park. And it would be a wonderful place, not only to be conducting research, inviting all investigators, professional investigators, to do research in the park, but also to bring in programs for education of younger people.
What would you say to the young people?
First of all, whether you recognize it or not, maybe you're city-bound still, it's in your genes. If you get out in nature right now, particularly if you can get out in a situation where you are alone or with just a friend in an area where you're safe, but get out alone and explore on your own to a place where you are an authentic explorer. You're looking for unusual things in the way of insects or salamanders or fish. You will be adding to your education immeasurably. You'd also be developing a sense of what the world is like outside of humanity and where humanity came from. That's why it's in your genes.
The National Park Service protects natural spaces all over the country, but they don't do it alone.
National Parks Conservation Association, also known as NPCA, was created in 1919 by the first director of the Park Service. We are an advocacy organization for the National Park Service. National parks are important for a lot of reasons. Not only are these the most treasured lands that are for everyone to enjoy and experience, that sparked a new way of thinking about public lands around the world with the establishment of Yellowstone in 1916. National parks have environmental value, they have economic value, and they have intrinsic value, not just for visitors today, but for visitors in the future. Wilderness is not something you create. Wilderness is. And these are areas that need to be protected rather than managed and then reconstructed. We are in Biscayne National Park, an urban park, one of the largest marine parks in the national park system. And we are on a very unique trail. It doesn't look like a trail necessarily because we're on top of the water, but if we take one of these tanks and go on down, we will see that we are on a shipwreck trail called the Maritime Heritage Trail. It has 6 shipwrecks and a lighthouse associated with it. And there's plaques that tell you what you're looking at underwater. National parks some of them are quite vast. In the case of Biscayne National Park, it's 95% water and among the largest marine parks in the National Park Service. The National Park Service doesn't necessarily have enough funds to fully monitor and properly protect what is under their charge, the park itself. So National Parks Conservation Association has partnered up with organizations who are doing work on the ground and connecting organizations who are looking for service projects. And one of our main partners is Adaptive Aquatics.
There's sharks down there. My name is Worth O'Brien. I was in the United States Marine Corps as a sergeant. I'm the owner and operator of Aquanaut Scuba Academy. We have a nonprofit foundation, which is Aquanauts Adaptive Aquatics. We do adaptive scuba programs. Adaptive scuba programs is for special needs, disabilities, and veterans. We are a veteran supporting veteran program. This is a very important thing to do for giving back to our local community as well as our national community. The fact of the matter is I'm a veteran. When I came back, I saw a lot of my brothers and sisters having issues. I was already involved in community services when I approached what I do as a passion, scuba diving. I found out later on that not only could I take them scuba diving, I could get them certified, and it is therapeutic as well as rehabilitation. The first year that I was scuba diving and teaching here locally, they had a paraplegic come to the dive shop, wanted to get certified. Nobody wanted to take him on, and I was like, if he can do it, he's capable of doing all the critical skills and completing the course academically and physically. What is the difference? So we did his scuba certification. He became certified. He's been diving for 10 years now. He's one of our divers who comes on most of our dives. When I go diving with divers with disabilities, mobility impaired or sight impaired, it doesn't matter. Most often, they're doing what a normal able-bodied person is doing, which is adapting to the underwater environment. So everybody has to adapt to the aquatic environment. And with that said, some are more adept than others, such as our deaf divers actually have better communication skills underwater. They have full-fledged conversations underwater as they're scuba diving. So many veterans are drawn to come and do Aquanauts Adaptive Aquatics because we make it fun, we keep it safe.
It's been our experience that many veterans, when they return to civilian life, sometimes they have a hard time readjusting. They want to continue to serve. And this partnership that NPCA has with our local organizations and the Park Service has found a way for our local veterans to continue to serve their nation.
Once we get to our dive site, your entry into the water will be through this center channel right where I'm standing. All right, so you can put all your gear on where you sit. Claudia will be lingering around, helping you back here. I'll be back here making sure your tank's turned on, everything is okay. So your giant stride out the back, there'll be a current line out there. That's gonna be your gathering point to wait for your buddy. Okay, once you have your buddy, do a weight check, go off and have a great time.
The submerged world is a fascinating place and it reveals so much, but you have to go to it. Marine parks are not like the typical idea of a national park where you drive by and then you pull over and you take a photo. You have to get in it to really experience it. And with the partnerships that we've been having with Adaptive Aquatics and their volunteers, it's been fascinating to have a double bonus of being able to bring disabled people to experience their national parks and really connect with them, and then get the added benefit of being buoyant.
As I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, once a Marine, always a Marine, I'm always giving back to my community service. It's a commitment that I made when I raised my hand and made that oath.
If while you guys are diving, you happen to hear this noise repeatedly, that's our very expensive and sophisticated diver recall system. That means there's something going on. I need y'all to come back to the boat so that your buddies know you heard something. Deflate your BCDs and come up nice and slow, because safety is always first.
I want to recognize Veterans Day Dive with our Veterans Week. So, for those who have supported our veterans, we thank you. And for those who have served, we salute you. I'm going to break you up into teams. So keeping that in mind, we have Team Ray, Team Jessica, Team Paulette, and Team Chuck. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, just give me a loud and vigorous Scuba Duba. My name's Instructor O'Brien or Mr. Scuba Duba. I'll be right there for you.
So the Maritime Heritage Trail is super unique in the national park system. It is the only submerged archaeological trail in the entire national park system. And we're so proud of the work that we're all doing with you guys, with Adaptive Aquatics, Aquanauts Adaptive Aquatics, because this project is getting y'all ready to monitor these wrecks 3 to 4 times a year and provide your observations to the Park Service.
Is there anything specifically you would like us to observe, monitor, and report back?
So yes, NPCA was able to work with the Park Service to place these large boulders with bronze plaques that are basically trail markers. And they provide the story of this particular wreck. So each of the 6 wrecks has their trail markers. So we want you to have a look at that, make sure there's no damage to the marker. If it needs to be cleaned, you'll let us know or tell the Park Service. And then Worth has done the training. I think a couple others have done the training so that when you are underwater and you're at a submerged archaeological site, you're able to deconstruct that site and understand what you're looking at. Biscayne National Park encompasses most of Biscayne Bay, which is inside a series of barrier islands and coral reefs separate from the Atlantic Ocean. Biscayne Bay was very alluring to ships in olden times. There are a lot of shipwrecks in this one spot because this is the northern part of the Florida Reef Tract, and which is the 3rd largest coral reef tract in the world. And so coral reefs, shallow waters, and boats, when they come together, often it's not such a great story for the boat. And for the coral as well, because there's could be a lot of damage to the coral too.
My name is Captain Daniel Gormley. I'm a retired captain from the United States Army.
I am a Navy veteran.
I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force Reserves.
I was a sergeant in the United States Army.
And I served 3 years in the U.S. Army as an airborne parachute rigger.
I've been diving about 5 years now.
I started diving in Puerto Rico when I was 10 years old.
I met Worth and I got recertified. I got my PADI certification. He certified me all the way up to rescue diver, and currently I'm a master diver.
I got involved with buddy diver training through Aquanauts, adaptive divers.
What we do with adaptive aquatics is you obtain a certification handicapped, what we call a buddy diver. And from there, you're paired with a disabled veteran or individual suffering from, could be a multitude of disabilities.
It's important for several different reasons. For mental health, it makes them feel like they can do more, and actually they can. It's a form of motivation.
I'm a disabled vet, but they needed an extra person. I got 90 dives myself. Today was my first day actually helping another veteran be able to do what I do rather easily compared to him. And it's a challenge because it's their dive, it's not your dive. You have to watch them, and you can't go looking for lobster. You can't go looking for anything like that. You got to watch them and make sure they get through it and they enjoy themselves. That's the whole name of the game.
To be able to help divers less fortunate than myself with special needs to get into the water, to realize the wonderful therapeutic effects of the water, and to enjoy the diving experience.
So to be able to do whatever I can to help people get in that water and see that aquatic life, to hear the bubbles that come from your regulator and just enjoy, that's why I do it.
What really is very touching to me is when you experience these people that are wheelchair bound and you put them into the water and you free them of their confines of their wheelchair and they're free to fly. And they have these smiles on their faces that are indescribable. And when they get out of the water, to hear their stories of how they felt so free as a bird and really enjoyed the experience is immensely satisfying.
It was fantastic with us out in there. We saw a moray eel that we chased all over, and we saw a baby shark.
I went down and saw a shipwreck. There were tons of lobsters, jellyfish, needlefish, a ton of species of fish. It was beautiful.
Aquanauts is a great program for people like me. I was a diver before my injury. I've been certified since I was 15. And after my injury, I didn't know how to get back in the water.
Was looking for ways to get back in the ocean, and that's where I broke my neck, but I still like it. And I found Worth and the organization, so he trained me. He taught me how to be able to enjoy the beach again.
It's very, very life-changing. Very life-changing.
I've been told that I can't do a lot of things, that I won't do a lot of things, that I won't be able to because I'm disabled, and that just makes me work a little bit harder to prove them wrong, that I can do this, and I could probably do it better than you.
There's a lot of global warming damage.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Coral bleaching, where the coral loses their pigmentation. It's a big factor.
We need to preserve what we have left. And with global warming, there's a lot that is damaging, and it's our responsibility, because we live in this planet, that we protect it.
Without the environment, we don't exist. We have everything in here. We got to protect our sea life, our marine life. Too much life down there to let it go.
As a veteran, it's all about service for us. Not only did I serve my country, but I served the buddy next to me. And it goes hand in hand with not just the community, but with the environment as well.
When I got out of the Army, I still had that obligation and that compassion to serve my country and my fellow man. And being a Native American Indian, we learned to be good stewards of Mother Earth and the environment.
The protection of our public lands is really important, because without them, everything would be developed. Everything would be the same. There is a primal need for human beings to reconnect to a natural state, to listen to silence, to observe dark skies and have the stars just pop out and speak to you in a way that hasn't happened before because we're usually in urban environments. And one of the things I love most about the idea, this national park idea, is that it's through time and space. So that my grandfather could have gone to Yellowstone and had a hike and seen this amazing vista. And now I can go to that same hike, to that same spot, and see that amazing vista in the same way that he saw it, so that I'm communing through time and space.
It is everybody's responsibility to protect national parks, whether it is a simple thing of writing an article or going out there and doing a cleanup or going out there and doing a survey. As a veteran, I feel that it's a commitment that I made when I raised my hand and made that oath from day one to today. And it'd be my lifestyle until the end of my days.